Welcome to the September 6th, 2023 meeting of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission. We'll call the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum present tonight. We have not had anyone register for public comments, so we will move on to approving the minutes of the August 16th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those prior to the meeting. Have any additions or corrections? And if not, we'll be ready for a motion.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We are calling the roll, so if we,
Oh, I apologize. That's fine. To approve the minutes. Thank you, Ms. Jacob.
Ms. Ava Water,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Silas,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye. Next, we will move on to our public hearings and recommendations for the City Council. Our first item tonight is a zoning application to amend the existing P&D zoning of Rutherford Collegiate Prep P&D on 8.23 acres located along Manson Pike. Ryan Companies US, Inc. is the applicant. Ms. Rush, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. The applicant, Ryan Companies, and the school operator is Rethink Forward. They're represented by Mr. Matt Taylor of SCC. The request is to amend the plan development book for Planned Institutional District. And this request to amend is to increase the floor area, the number of students, the number of classrooms and teachers, and the building height. Specifically, as noted in the staff report, the increases are the building square footage from 56,000 square feet to 61,000 square feet, and to increase the number of students at capacity from 770 to 1,000, corresponding with classrooms from 33 that were permitted to 41, and increase the number of teachers to 60, and also a slight increase in the building height from 35 to 40 feet. So this item was before the Planning Commission very recently. It was on March 23rd, 2023, that you reviewed and made your recommendation to the City Council. The City Council had approved the zoning on May 18th, 2023. So this amendment came about as they were going through and finishing up the design for their campus and financing, and realized that they needed to increase the number of students and the square feet. So the location, as noted, was along Manson Pike on the north side and southeast of Interstate 840. Generally, with the changes, the site design is going to remain the same. The changes are going to be incorporated within the building footprint that was proposed, and this is going to be accommodated through what was the auditorium with a tall ceiling is now going to be an auditorium with a short ceiling. They're going to be adding a second floor within that portion of the building to add those classrooms. As indicated in the last time we had reviewed this, the future land use map shows the land use character for this property as general commercial, and it was determined that this use as a school is consistent with that land use character because schools are allowed use within that land use characteristic. So we are asking for the Planning Commission to conduct a public hearing and then formulate a recommendation for the City Council. Mr. Taylor is in the audience. If you have any questions of him, he'll be providing a short presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions of the Planning Commission now or anytime later this evening. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Rush before we hear from Mr. Taylor? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rush. Chair Lady Jones, members of the Planning Commission, I don't have a PowerPoint or formal presentation. Did just want to reiterate a few things that Ms. Rush said. We're simply increasing the student count from 750 to 1,000. It's still a K through 8 program. The building height did increase a little bit to accommodate that second floor. The site design and the style of the architecture have all stayed identical. We did update the traffic study to make sure that the extra children and cars could be accommodated, and they certainly could. So we've submitted that to staff as well. So we still meet and exceed the parking requirements based on the increased child count, student count, teacher count as well. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Taylor?
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor. that, we will open the public hearing and ask anybody to come forward that would like to speak either for or against this item. Anybody? Okay. We'll close the public hearing and ask for any comments, questions from the Planning Commission.
If there are no questions, I make a motion we approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jacob?
Ms. Safelwater,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Salas,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye. Okay, thank y'all very much. Our next item is a zoning application for approximately 12 acres located along Medical Center Parkway to be rezoned from CH and GDO 1 to PCD and GDO 1. This is the avenue. Big V Property Group is the applicant. Ms. Green, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. The application before you this evening is for you to consider amending portions of the property owned by Big V, which is the Avenues Lifestyle Center, from their current CH Commercial Highway District, ESO, and GDO overlays to PCD Planned Commercial District. You can see on the map on the screen that the areas proposed to be rezoned to PCD are in the blue color, and they largely follow the lease lines currently in place for the property, which is mostly developed at this point. And so you can see in the ortho photo that all but one of these lots currently has a use on it with the associated parking. The original plan for these was for them to not be sold as separate lots of record, so the site was not designed to meet minimum standards. Several years later, the owner of the property has a desire to subdivide these properties and sell them either to the existing tenants or to another entity, and can't create those property lines without creating non-conforming conditions on the property. These properties would not be a candidate for variances because a variance by definition can't be self-created. So the avenue that the planning department gave as a possibility was to come to Planning Commission and request a plan development. As such, you have the program book before you. And this plan development does only apply to 12 acres of the overall property, and the property itself is, let's see, 85.6 acres. And so the 85.6 acres will remain as is. The plan development book did identify 4 exceptions to our development standards that would be needed to create these parcels, and you can find those on page 21 of the program book. Essentially, there's a shared drive aisle behind the lots, and so our standards today say that you can't exceed lighting levels beyond half a foot candle, but they're requesting to have that drive well lit regardless of the property lines. Also, the existing Buffalo Wild Wings would not meet the rear setback, and so it's an existing structure. To create the lot, there would need to be an exception for the Buffalo Wild Wings. And then there are some requirements for separations between parking and access areas and adjacent property lines in the gateway. And to create the property lines where they're shown, it wouldn't meet those standards. Essentially, and then the fourth exception would be that each of these lots doesn't need to provide formal open space, but instead will continue to rely on the overall development for the formal open space. So when you think of the plazas and walkways that are within the lifestyle center, they still very much want to be an integrated part of the avenue, just this is an additional revenue stream identified by the applicants. So no formal open space for these lots. I'll go back to the plans. The design team have provided exhibits that show each lot and where they would need those exceptions to our zoning ordinance. To anyone driving by or shopping here, they won't know that anything has changed because it'll look exactly like it does today. But to create those lots, there is a need for them to request plan development. Mr. Taylor has a PowerPoint presentation that he'd like to go through the details of the plan with you. If you have any questions, staff will be glad to answer them.
Any questions this time? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Green.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Chair Lady Jones, members of the Planning Commission, I'm Matt Taylor of SEC. I've also got several representatives of the Avenue and Big V with me as well tonight in case we have questions for them. I did have a brief presentation to go through in regards to this application. As Ms. Green said, it is for 7 of the out parcels that have previously been developed in the Avenue Shopping Center development. 2 of those previous out parcels have been sold. One of those is Culver's. The other, I think, houses the Starbucks, maybe a mattress store. Can't remember what else is in that particular shopping center. But it's the ones highlighted in the pink shading here on this aerial. These are all zoned commercial highway with the GDO 1 overlay. Our request does not remove the GDO overlay. It'll still have that overlay after the fact. These are just some examples of the businesses owned, the out parcels requested. I think it's important to note we've not requested any exceptions to architecture with this proposal. The 7 out parcels make up just over 12 acres in size. All of our out parcels currently have 1-story buildings on them. If they were ever to be reconstructed, we've limited that to 1- and 2-story buildings. They'll still be subject to the PSO that governs all the signage at the Avenue today. It'll still remain a vital part of the Avenue master plan. And so the landscaping that's along Medical Center will still be maintained by the Avenue owner. The items on site will be maintained by each individual out parcel. That's exactly how it's set up today. And so, as Ms. Green said, if you're driving by, you would not know that there's been any change out here. It would continue to be developed in the same fashion, maintenanced in the same fashion, operated in the same fashion that it is today. We would execute shared parking agreements between the master shopping center as well as the individual out parcels. Just due to the nature of the out parcels, they were always envisioned to share parking with the bigger lots to the south inside the Avenue Way Ring Road. Again, architecture standards are the same. Each lot already and will continue to provide 20% open space. The formal open space is more concentrated within the overall development of the Avenue, and that'll continue to be the case after this. The access points that are there today will continue to remain the same along Medical Center, not requesting any change to those. With the city's widening and reconstruction of Medical Center Parkway, there was a need for some signal easement expansion at the intersection of Medical Center and Willow Oak. We will take care of that easement dedication with our re-subdivision plat that would be necessary to create these parcels before any conveyance could occur. And then all 7 of these are inside your booklet. I just picked out a random one. I did not feel like you wanted to see all 7. They are they mirror each other largely. We established these lot lines shown here in the pink and white to follow the back of the sidewalk that runs along each of the out parcels today. And then it goes along the right-of-way of Medical Center Parkway. And so, again, nothing that you see will change. Still have the same landscaping, still have the same maintenance, still be subject to the larger part. It may just be a different owner of this particular parcel than the Avenue itself. And then this just outlines the exceptions, which Ms. Green went over earlier, which all have to do with the property lines, either with photometrics or with landscaping. And then, of course, the Buffalo Wild Wings does have the single rear yard setback. I'll be happy to answer any questions now or after the public hearing.
And Mr. Taylor or Ms. Green or Mr. Blomley, did we have to have an amendment to the original Avenue PCD or? No, it was just all commercial highway? at
Yes,
that?
ma'am. And so it was all a bulk zoning before this. So only the out parcels would be a subject to
The PCD.
this PCD. Yes, ma'am. So
So they still all have the original avenue requirements or restrictions, and all of that still applies?
yes, ma'am. All that was governed by the original developer. So anybody that came in, because these were all set up as long-term land leases, and so even like the Culvers or the strip center that were sold, those were all subject to the overall requirements of the avenue, and that was all governed through CCRs. They have an ARC that they have to go through. So anytime a new building is constructed there, they have to get a sign-off from the avenue's architect before Ms. Green lets it go very far, before it ever gets to you all.
Okay.
And these would continue to operate in that same fashion if they were ever redeveloped, or the empty one when it does develop.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, so currently, these can't be sold as individual parcels, right?
That's correct. The Culvers was set up to always be sold. It was part of the original master plan. I don't know why that one was chosen to be different. The strip center where Starbucks is, I think it actually went and received some variances for basically the same thing. Since that time, I think we've changed our stance on how variances are granted, if I remember correctly on that.
So right now, to get commercial development in there, somebody'd have to agree to a land lease instead of,
Yes, sir.
and all the other properties around it can be purchased as,
Yes, sir. Like everything, say just across the street at Clary Park, all of those are set up as individual out parcels that are, I believe every one of them are set to be sold. I don't know that Hines has envisioned keeping any of those.
so in doing so, it opens up to all businesses that might not want to lease the land, but would purchase.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we open the public hearing? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Taylor. We will open the public hearing and ask anybody to come forward that would like to speak regarding this item. Seeing no one, y'all didn't have to listen to my long list of things that you can and can't do when you come to the podium, so I didn't see anybody. I thought was maybe going to come up and speak to us, but still welcome to, but for now, we will go ahead then and close the public hearing. Any other questions or comments before we call for the vote?
If there are none, I move for approval, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Savelwater,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Salas,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye. Okay. Thank you again. All right, next we are moving on to staff reports and other business, and we have 3 items here tonight. We have a mandatory referral to consider the dedication of a Middle Tennessee Electric easement located along Bridge Avenue and New Salem Highway. Murfreesboro Legal Department is the applicant. Mr. Hankins, good evening.
Thank you, Chair Jones. Yes, this first one is requesting approval for an electric easement along Bridge Avenue in front of the Doug Young Training Complex. Middle Tennessee Electric is extending a line out of their substation to the east. While it's not directly related to the New Salem Highway construction project, the timing is of granting the easement is necessitated by that project, which is why they're bringing it now. So if you have any questions about the specifics, I'm here.
Any questions?
If there are none, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Savelwater,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Salas,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye. Okay. Next item is a mandatory referral to consider the dedication of Middleton C Electric easement located along Veterans Parkway and Windrow Road. Murfreesboro Legal Department is the applicant. Mr. Hankins.
Thank you. This second mandatory referral is for another electric easement, this time along Veterans Parkway. Again, Middle Tennessee Electric is running a circuit out of a substation located nearby. Part of this is going to be, I guess, adding an additional burden to a current easement, adding some additional poles in there, and then a small portion of new easement to go along with the project. So, here for any questions.
Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Haverwater,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Salas, Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye. Next item is a mandatory referral to consider the abandonment of a sanitary sewer easement located at 140 Joe B. Jackson Parkway. Carlson Consulting Engineers, Inc. is the applicant. Mr. Barbie, good evening.
Good afternoon, Chair Jones and members of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission. This third mandatory referral request this afternoon, or this evening, is to consider the request to abandon a 20-foot section of sewer easement located on the Walmart property at 140 Joe B. Jackson Parkway. The sewer main that is currently located within that easement is going to be reclassified to a private line. Therefore, that easement will no longer be required. This is in order to help accommodate a future expansion of the Walmart location. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Haverwater,
Aye.
Vice Chair Halliburton,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Salas,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye.
Madam Chair, could I get a confirmation that that motion was subject to staff comments? There were a few recommended conditions in the staff report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other business tonight?
The only reminder I have, is that our October evening meeting will be a week later than normal. It'll be on October the 11th. So just a reminder for that to make sure y'all update your calendars. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you for that reminder. There's no other business. We stand adjourned.